You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
So I have one of those smart TVs. And anytime something's labeled smart, it tends to do dumb things, doesn't it? Mine has this tendency to lose communication with the cable box. So I'll turn the TV on and I can get to all the streaming services, but I can't actually get to the standard cable box. What I get is like a giant pink screen. And at that point, I have to do one of two things. Either I have to reboot the TV or I have to reboot the cable box. And last night, I had to do both. Well, in doing both, I got to a point where the cable box is very slow and sat there going, please wait, please wait, please wait. So as I was waiting, I decided to go over to one of the streamers and I flipped over to Disney Plus. And I had forgotten that the second volume or the second season of Groot, I Am Groot, was dropped. It's out there, all 5 little episodes. And they're short. They're like 4 minutes on average. So I watched those. And they're very cute. You know, he's trying to chase an ice cream truck in space. He's building a snowman. He takes care of a new hatchling bird. These little things like that. But then the final episode is probably the best. And it is narrated by Jeffrey Wright, the Watcher. And while these other ones are these cute little vignettes, you watch the last one and all you want to think about, all you want is, I want this one to go on. I want to keep seeing little Groot frustrate the hell out of the Watcher. Ed says he didn't even know there was a Groot series. Yes, there's 2 seasons. They're just shorts. They're little 4 or 5 minute episodes. They're done in the same animation, well, not animation style, but special video graphic style as he's done in the shows. So, you know, there's no other, you know, it's all done that way. So it looks like the character from the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where he's running around and dancing while they're fighting. You follow him through 10 episodes, 5 season 1, 5 season 2. But that last one's probably the best one. So if we get a chance, we'll talk about them more later. But for now, stay tuned for the Dan Wickline Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dan Wickline Show. Here it is, September 7th of the year 2023. We are hurtling towards the end of the year, and it's going quickly. Today we have Sheldon and Kenneth and Ed and Triple B and John. Everybody's here, and we have JD on the board. It should be a fun show. All right. Yeah, let me just go ahead and switch that off and just talk normal again. Okay, hello all you beautiful people in here. That's almost like Droopy. Hello all you beautiful people. I used to be able to do that voice better, but I'm not sure where anymore. Hello all you beautiful. That's happy people. Hello all you happy people. Hello all you happy people. All right, so we've got some news. We are going to talk about Ahsoka. We are going to do some spoilers. So if you haven't seen it yet, you probably stick around for the news and the lead up. And then when it comes to ultimate spoiler time, you know, I'll give you the warning and you can bail. But we're going to cover some interesting things that happened in the episode that you may be going, what the hell was that? So, yeah, we'll get to all that. But it is an interesting news day. So we showed Ed, my friend, excited for tomorrow to start the NFL. Well, did the NFL start tonight? Thursday night game. Detroit Lions versus Kansas City Chiefs without Travis Kelce. So if you are doing a fantasy league and you have Travis Kelce, I'm sorry, but should be an interesting game. Most of my players, I got into a fantasy league, and most of my players all are on Sunday, so I'll at least be able to wait and see if anybody gets healthy. But yeah, Detroit looked really good last year. I'm curious to see if they're going to be able to keep it going. Goff was good and bad in Los Angeles. I expect him to be kind of the same way in Detroit. So we'll have to see if he comes in. He's good. And they're going up against Patrick Mahomes. So even without Travis Kelce, it's going to be tough. But I think the Lions actually have a chance. So, all right, let's get to the news. Oh, Ed's a Lions fan. Very nice. Good luck tonight, Ed. I will be pulling for your Lions. I'm also not a Chiefs fan, so it's easy to root for the Lions tonight. And it's kind of like rooting for the underdog. So I'm all in from the Detroit love tonight. JD says, one good thing about not working for a classic rock radio station anymore, I don't have to pretend to care about football. I do care about football, so I care about sports. I could do a whole other podcast on sports, so I have very diverse interests. Probably too many. So, all right, let's get to the news. Do you guys know who Chef Jose Andres is? He's the guy behind World Central Kitchen. Great guy. He's got a new show coming up on CNN where he takes his family to Spain, kind of the same way that Stanley Tucci is going around Italy, and Eva Longoria is going around Mexico for them. They're still trying to find a replacement for Anthony Bourdain, and I don't think there's ever going to be a true replacement for Anthony Bourdain, but they're still trying. So, well, Jose Andres, he's considered a celebrity chef, and he does World Central Kitchen, which they picked up and immediately went over to Ukraine when everything went to hell there and started cooking dinners for everybody. And I think that's just an amazing charity. One of the Dynamite Humble Bundles actually went to raise money for World Central Kitchen. They have another one, by the way, right now that's raising money for the Maui wildfires. So we'll talk. If you guys want to know about that, I'll tell you after the next break. But Chef Andres has penned his own graphic novel and has teamed up with TKO Studios to publish Feeding Dangerously on the Ground with Jose Andres and World Central Kitchen. Now, the book, which comes out on November 8th, is co-written by Andres and Steve Orlando. Most of us are familiar with Steve Orlando's work, and illustrated by Alberto Ponticelli. It tells the origin story of Andres and his nonprofit World Central Kitchen as they traverse the globe serving meals to communities affected by natural and man-made disasters. World Central Kitchen has served more than 300 million meals worldwide. For each book purchased directly from TKO Studios, they will donate $5 to World Central Kitchen to support their work, and also made an initial donation of $100,000. So besides Ukraine, Andres went immediately down to the hurricane stuff in Florida. They're always on the spot when there's trouble. So, Ed says, thank you. I'm excited but skeptical. I've heard similar hype before, and we go winless, but thanks for your support. Now, we're going to pull for you, Ed, all season. You got my backing. I'm a Carolina Panther fan, so as long as they're not playing the Panthers, then I'm rooting for the Lions. So, All right, switching over to Goosebumps. Disney Plus live action series based on the R.L. Stine best-selling Scholastic book series is set to premiere on both Disney Plus and Hulu on Friday, October 13th, just prior to Halloween. The 10-part series from Disney branded television and Sony TV will drop the first 5 episodes as part of the Disney Plus's Hollow Stream and Hulu's Huluween. Yeah, they paid somebody in marketing for those names. Their celebrations and subsequent new episodes will stream weekly. Additionally, the series' first 2 episodes will air on Freeform on October 13th as part of their 31 Nights of Halloween. They don't get nearly as much money for coming up with that one. Disney branded television, of course, has been kind of leaning away from third-party IPs and more towards the ones already owned by Disney. And they've removed a bunch of stuff from Disney Plus and Hulu, and they're licensing them out, that kind of thing. But Goosebumps is the exception. They said R.L. Stine's Goosebumps franchise is a pop culture phenomenon that holds a special place in the hearts of people of all ages. This comes from Io Davis, president of Disney Branded Television, who went on to say, "We are delighted to bring this spooky new series to audiences everywhere in a big way on Disney Plus and Hulu, which we hope will not only captivate new audiences with its elevated thrills and chills, but also lifelong fans nostalgic for the stories that are staples of their generation." Yes, we can still be friends. John, I don't have a problem with that. You can root for whatever team you like. I'm going to root against you, probably more often than not, but we gave you Baker Mayfield, so good luck. John says he loves Goosebumps. Excellent. So does Ed. So, yeah, there you go. We got new Goosebumps coming to Disney Plus, a live action series, 10 episodes. This is interesting if you guys are a fan of The Crow. Lionsgate has just tied up an 8-figure deal for domestic rights to The Crow reboot. This may finally happen after all this time. It's going to star Bill Skarsgård, singer-songwriter FKA Twigs. I don't know who that is at all. And Danny Houston. It's being done by Rupert Sanders. He's reimagining the 1994 cult classic. That, of course, was Brandon Lee's last film where he died during filming. Now, in the original thriller, a man who is brutally murdered comes back to life as an avenging angel, or an undead avenger, for him and his fiance's death. Now, both movies are based on the graphic novel done by James O'Barr. The script is being written by Zach Balin and Will Schneider, and it also stars Laura Byrne, Sammy, wow, there's a lot of vowels in this name, Wahila, and Jordan Bolger. The movie is expected to be released next year. Why reboot The Crew? Makes no sense. I know O'Barr has been trying to get it remade. They've had a bunch of attempts at it. They did such a good job with the first one. The 2 follow-ups weren't that great. And I think they're just trying to continue the series forward. So, all right. In the big legal news today, if you guys haven't heard this, Danny Masterson, formerly of That 70s Show, has been sentenced this morning to 30 years to life in prison for multiple rapes. Masterson was present in court today for the sentencing, and he was permitted to address the court, but Masterson chose not to speak, though he did confer with defense lawyers prior to sentencing begins. Judge Charlene Olmedo told him that you are not the victim here. Your actions 20 years ago were criminal. Masterson was informed that because of his sentence, he will have to register as a sex offender upon parole or release, which he told the court he understood. Given the maximum sentence allocated under law, Masterson was taken out of the court by sheriff's deputies to begin formally serving his time in state prison. As the sentence was announced, Masterson's wife, Bijou Phillips, and other family members wept in the public gallery. Today's sentencing comes over 3 months after Masterson was found guilty by an LA jury on 2 of 3 counts of sexual assault. The rapes occurred 2 decades ago. Masterson was given 150 days credit for time already served. He was also notified that he can file a notice of appeal within 60 days, a move that his defense is expected to make. Talila Debret Barnett, known professionally as FKA Twigs, is a British singer, songwriter, and dancer. Well, thank you, Ed. Yeah, that Danny Masterson news, it's like, yeah, bye-bye. All right, some news on the upcoming What If Season 2. According to Nerd Rage Podcast, and this is being confirmed by a few other sites, we have the short descriptions on what the upcoming second season episodes are going to be. Now, there's 9 episodes in all, and they are What If Gamora Killed Thanos? And that's actually an episode from season 1 that didn't get aired in season 2. So we knew that one was coming. This is where the Gamora we see at the end of season 1 comes from. You know, she's on Sakaar with Tony Stark. We'll finally see that story. We're going to get What If Captain Carter finds a Hydra Stomper. This is a continuation from season 1. So that storyline where at the end of season 1 she sees the Hydra Stomper on the Lumerian star. That's going to pick up from there. What if the Tesseract landed, and I'm going to die, I'm going to slaughter this name. What if the Tesseract landed in Haudenosaunee Confederacy before the colonization of America? This is where they're going to introduce a new hero called Kahori. What If 2 has not started yet. I don't think it's even... what they're saying now is that it's going to come out at the very end of this year. It's going to replace what they plan to do with Echo. So Echo is going to be bumped until early 2024, and this is going to come in at the end of 2023. Okay, we also get What If Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne fought the Red Guardian during 1980s? That's my favorite one so far. Just love the idea of Hank and Janet going up against Red Guardian, and knowing that David Harbour, Michael Douglas, I'm hoping they bring these actors back to do the voices, because it would just be too perfect. We get, this is kind of an interesting, what if Yondu had delivered Star-Lord to Ego? So what if Peter Quill actually had gone to Ego? Could be interesting. Yeah, they're saying around Christmas Day for the release of this. There's also supposed to be What If Happy Hogan Saves Christmas, and this is supposed to be kind of around Iron Man, the events of Iron Man 3. This one could be interesting. What if Wanda had grown up watching musicals instead of sitcoms? So it looks like they're going to do a twist on WandaVision, but more song and dance. We also get What If Odin and Hela had faced Wenwu? That's kind of an interesting one. And finally, what if Avengers had fought Surtur? Now, it's believed also that the character of Strange Supreme, introduced in season 1, will also return for one of these. We just don't know which one. Okay, I got one last news story, and this ties into our topic of the day. Though Ray Stevenson passed away in May, he was interviewed about his character Baylan Skoll back at Star Wars Celebration in Europe. In the discussion, Ray talked about the mysterious nature of his Ahsoka character and his eventual meeting with Grand Admiral Thrawn, which is still to happen. Now, he says, when you see Baylan actually get to meet Thrawn, you wonder, is this the first time? Is it the last time? What's going on again? What's the dynamic here? And that's the thing that fans will discover. Now, it seems that all of Baylan's relationships are questionable in a lot of ways, even the one with Shin Hati. He says, Shin's his apprentice, and these characters arrive, and at first you think, all right, I got the measure of these two, and then you don't. And then you think, all right, okay, that's that, and it shifts again, and it shifts again. What is going on here? Who are they? Who are these people? What is their goal? They are sometimes like catalysts. They're thrown into the thing, and at the catalyst they react. That comes out. It's like an effervescent spectacle. Then there's another meandering thing. What's going on? What is their mission? Are they working for them? No, not really. Are they working for them? So what's driving? That's the exciting thing about playing this character. He's not one or the other or the other. So it sounds like we're going to get a lot of twists and turns with the character of Baylan Skoll. Ed says, have you heard anything about season 4 of The Boys? Now I'm hearing rumors the strikes canceled it, but I don't believe any of that stuff. To the best of my knowledge, season 4 is still in the works. They can't move forward until after the strikes, but they're about to release Gen V, which is the spinoff series. They put a trailer out today. So Prime is moving forward with the Boys universe, and we're going to get Gen V. But season 4 is on hold like everything else until the strike gets settled. John, you got nothing to apologize for Punisher Warzone. I thought that was the most Punisher-like of all the things. And I say this being a friend with Tom Jane, that, I love Tom's performance, but I think that Ray really was one of the best Punishers. I think John Bernthal is amazing, but that's a different type of Punisher. I think Ray felt like he walked straight out of the comics. So, all right, let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, I'll tell you guys about the new Humble Bundle that I think is really cool, and then we will get into Ahsoka episode 4. Be right back.
Join the party. Head over to our Linktree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Imagine being at a convention and going to an interview panel that's just for you. No bustling crowds, no hours-long lines, just you, the moderator, and your favorite comic book creators. Well, this is pretty much that. Miss Jen sits down every week with 2 comic book creators for a live stream interview about their latest work, and you can ask them whatever you want. It's Talking Shop, Mondays at 5 Eastern on The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP.
everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show here on The Experience. We have a fun lineup today, including What's in the Box and SketchUp and the comic book Beardies. So you'll want to stick around for all of that. I had to swirl to get my head started. It's like a giant Etch-a-Sketch. Okay, we're ready to go. And let me tell you about this Humble Bundle. It's called the Wheel of Time and More Dynamite Comic Humble Bundle. And it has a ton of Wheel of Time comics. And if you're following the series on Prime, second season's coming up, if you're a fan of Robert Jordan's original novels or the Brandon Sanderson ones that finished the series, there are just a ton. I mean, we're looking at 44 Wheel of Time comics out there, and they're going to start doing more. There's a bunch of Savage Tales. There's Jungle Girl, Damsels by Leah Moore, Lords of the Jungle, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, The Precinct. This is all part of the Legendary series that they did. That took it was like steampunk versions of all the Dynamite characters. There's some Deja Thoris. Like I said, lots of Tarzan. One of my favorite things in this is Bill Mantlo, the creator of, well, just a ton of great characters, but including Rocket Raccoon. He did a graphic novel for Marvel years ago called Swords of the Swashbuckler, which I loved reading when I was younger. Well, they reprinted it and then continued the story with Mark Guggenheim. And all of that stuff is available, and you can get every single piece of that for like $18. You can get all of that, which is amazing. There's smaller versions of the bundle too. You can figure out what you want to pay, but then I think it's like over 6,000 digital comic pages for $18. But you also, a part of it goes to Direct Relief, and Direct Relief raises money for areas like, in this case, the people affected by the wildfires in Malibu. So this is one of those cases where you can get a ton of cool comics to read digitally. It's not, I mean, it's percentages, like a tiny percentage of the actual cover price, and a big chunk of it goes to the charity. Now, they've raised almost $5,000 for Maui wildfire victims right now, and we're hoping it's still going. It's still 13 days to go, so we're hoping to get that number up. So I'm going to be talking about this probably quite a bit, see if we can push this going. So, all right, let's get to Ahsoka. Now, first we're going to talk about the setup to the episode. I'm not going to get to the very ending, which is the big spoiler. But before we get to that, I mentioned this yesterday, but Disney is doing something unprecedented. They're releasing the 5th episode of Ahsoka into select theaters around the country. Now, by now, all the tickets are probably gone. They're free. You just had to reserve them on a website. As of yesterday, there was most of them were already gone. It was down to like 2 cities. But if Disney is excited enough for episode 5 that they're going to put it in the theater and release a specific poster for episode 5 that looks like a movie poster, not just a single character shot, but an actual composite with all the different characters. And if you see it, you get the reveal of the finale, of the final moments of the episode 4. Then you got to know that they are big on this episode. But episode 4 itself, maybe they should have put both of them in back to back, because episode 4 is just wild. The previous episodes, the first 2 seemed kind of slow to me. Episode 3 started slow and then picked up as soon as they started in the air, fighter battles and stuff. But episode 4 was just speeding away from the get. Let's see, real quick. Can we catch up on questions? Oh, hello, Ran. Question for Dan. If Nick called you and asked you to write any Dynamite character, which would you choose? Nick does call me. Nick's the one that called me and basically offered me the opportunity to do Karma. So, but of all the characters they've got, I've written a couple in the novel stuff. I've written Vampirella. I've written Purgatory. Haven't done anything with Red Sonja. I've written Green Hornet in other people's books, but I do love Green Hornet. But I'd say right now, I would love to take a shot at the James Bond comics. I would love to tell a story in the James Bond universe. I would actually love to tell a story about a different 00 agent, without James Bond in it. That would be so much fun. Just to, there's always talk about, oh, we should have a female James Bond, or we should have, a minority James Bond. And I'm like, okay, that's not what Ian Fleming created. But if you want something like that, because the character would change with that background, he wouldn't be the womanizer that he is. It would change the character drastically. But there's all these 00 agents that you could simply go, okay, we've created a new 00, and we're going to spin him off into his own adventures, and it's going to star Idris Elba. Or we're going to go this way with the 00 agent, and it's going to star Charlize Theron. And I mean, you could do kind of stuff like that. And that's what I wish they would do. Let's see. Do you want the spoiler thing up in the corner? In a minute. Sorry, I was trying to get this out before Ahsoka talk. No problem. Do you like pizza? Who doesn't like pizza? I mean, I can understand being lactose intolerant, so you don't like the cheese or gluten, but no, pizza's great. What Star Wars movies is your favorite? Gotta go with the first one. And nice thing, that would be great. I don't think it should be a female James Bond. Yeah, I think James Bond should be as Ian Fleming described him, but you could do so much in that universe and do other 00s. I had a great interview with Philip Kennedy Johnson, who's currently writing the Bond series, and we talked about that, and he agreed he would love to do that too. So, all right, let's get back to Ahsoka. Yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and do the spoilers just in case. All right, so this episode, we know they flew into the area where the giant ship's going to be to fly across the to get Grand Admiral Thrawn. We know what they're going after. The ship is damaged. Hu Yang is trying to fix it. They're getting ready because they know the bad guys are out there. That's all set up. And the bad guys know they're out there. They've sent squads out to find them. We know there's a big battle coming, but I don't think we realized just how big the battle was going to be, because at first it seemed like the show is moving much faster than I expected. I wouldn't have been surprised if this would have been like the penultimate episode, and then they actually took off in after Thrawn or whatever in the last episode. But we're already there and we're halfway through. And then the huge twist at the end. But you get the initial battle with I don't know if they're robots. I think they're robots. The HK robots or whatever they're called. That makes short work of that. We see that Hu Yang can actually fight, which I think is awesome. And we see Sabine and Ahsoka working together. And I think that was the point of the first fight, is that we're still learning that they have had time together, because we've never seen it. There's never been, whether animated or live action, the two of them working together. So they have to establish that. That said, I think they establish it very well. They work really well together. Sabine is definitely a Mandalorian. She's got all the Mandalorian tactics and tricks. And the fight's really good. And then when it comes time for Mark Merrick and Shin to show up, I'm a little surprised how well um, Sabine is able to do against Shin. I kind of thought it would be one-sided, but she held her own for quite a while, and we're going to have to get to the twist of what happens to Merrick. Now I know everybody was wondering who Merrick was, and there was a huge speculation online, and I almost got drug into it. And if you looked online, you will see people saying Merrick was going to be Ezra Bridger. Merrick was going to be Star Killer from one of the Jedi video games. He was going to be Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order. And it was all this opportunity. I mean, they were all jumping on that being the possibility. And I'll tell you, in the first 2 episodes, I thought, well, the fact that they're kind of keeping it a secret makes you think it's going to be somebody important. But by the end of the 3rd episode, I'm like, no, I don't think it is. I think it's more what he is than who he is. And sure enough, that's what it turns out. In the fight with Ahsoka, and yeah, he's dressed like an Inquisitor. And maybe he was an Inquisitor, but we find out that he's also a Night Brother. And remember, the Night Sisters of Dathomir, or the Witches of Dathomir, this is a group of Force-powered witches. They use the Force in a different way. And Morgan Elspeth is one of them. And the Night Brothers, well, let me give you guys what the definition of a Night Brother is, because that's something really new to anybody who doesn't watch the animated stuff. Well, a Night Brother is, well, the reason I think he's a Night Brother, let's go with that first. When he gets sliced, he starts kicking out this green smoke. And if you watch the Clone Wars, we've seen that before. This is where, whenever one of the Night Brothers dies, one of the most prominent Night Brothers is Savage Opress, a Zabrak who is the actual brother of Darth Maul. When he dies, he starts turning into this green smoke. And you'll notice that it's the same color magic that the sisters or the witches of Dathomir use. Now, the Night Brothers were a small colony of Zabrak, Dathomirian Zabrak, who lived in a village on the far side of the planet under the rule of the Night Sisters. They're very subservient to the Night Sisters, especially the matriarch Mother Talzin, until the end, and they were until the end of the Clone Wars. So Maul was one of these, Darth Maul, Savage Opress was. Now, with Morgan Elsbeth being a daughter of Dathomir or a witch of Dathomir, it makes a lot of sense that she would have a Night Brother in her command. And even though he looked kind of like he was part of Balin's group, he's not. Because when they go and rescue Morgan from the prison ship, he's not there. He doesn't show up until after she's released. So that's something she put together. So what he is he's a servant to the to a Night Sister, in this case, a daughter of Dathomir, this case being Morgan. So that's why it makes sense. Even though it wasn't what everybody was expecting, it wasn't one of these super big reveals, it made a lot of sense. All right, so then she takes out Marek, heads off after the map, splits up exactly what Hu Yang told him not to do. Sabine and Shin keep going toe-to-toe. And Shin gets the upper hand, but eventually takes off when the fight doesn't go exactly how she wanted. We get the battle between Balin and Ahsoka. And for me, that was probably one of the best lightsaber battles I've seen in a long time. Because you could tell that each one of them had a different purpose. They weren't necessarily trying to kill each other. And they were going through all of these different stances and moves and things like that. They were trying different attacks and fighting styles to throw the other one off. Where all Ahsoka wanted to do was get past him to get the map. All Baylan wanted to do was to prevent her from getting the map. That was his only goal. He wasn't trying to kill her. And you get that in a lot of the things he says, is that he isn't necessarily a killer. What he is, we don't know yet, but we see it later on too. So we get the fight between them, and when Shin returns before Sabine, we see Ahsoka lose it a bit and kind of drift into the dark side, choking Shin, using dark side tactics. And it isn't until Sabine shows up that she backs off a little bit. And we see that when Ahsoka gets there, she burns her hand on the map to get it away, which, anybody else be reminded of Toth from Raiders of the Lost Ark? Think that's going to be part of how they get to where they need to go? It's going to be imprinted on her hand. But I thought it was a really good fight scene. It was really interesting because Baylan was trying to push her buttons. And she was clearly not necessarily the good guy in the fight. And I'm not saying bringing Thrawn back is a good thing, but he was rattling her. He was talking about Anakin. He was talking about the legacy of death that follows Anakin, how she's tainted by her master. It's really interesting. Ed says, I get Sabine not wanting the map destroyed because of Ezra, but why didn't Sabine just relock the globe? Remember, she unlocked it so it couldn't. Damn, Ed, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for that, other than maybe it's one of those situations that once it's unlocked, it's not easy to lock, or it can't be locked. It could be just as difficult to lock it than to unlock it. Don't know. Don't have an answer for that. But it's a really good question. So Ahsoka goes over the edge in the fight. Sabine threatens to use the blaster, which I don't think would have done a damn thing anyway. Because look how long it took Baylan's lightsaber to destroy it. But he finally convinces her to give in and give him the map so that she could be reunited with Ezra. And he promises her that she will be reunited with Ezra. And I thought that was really interesting because when Shin shows up and starts choking her, or recovers from the Ahsoka's attack, Baylan stops her because he made that promise. So there is something really honorable about Baylan, something really interesting about Baylan, and I can't wait to see what that is, because I have a feeling he's a much more complicated character than we think, and he may not necessarily be a bad guy. We don't know what his motivations are yet. He could be a bad guy, but I don't think so. All right, we're going to take our second break, and when we come back, we will talk about where Ahsoka wakes up and what exactly that place is. Be right back.
Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code. According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch The Experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into the experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into the experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dan Wickline Show. Please hit that like and subscribe button. All right, let's get into the ending where Ahsoka wakes up and hears the voice of Anakin Skywalker, who refers to her as Snips, which is the nickname that she had in early on. She was Snips, he was Sky Guy. But the question is, what the hell was that place? If you haven't watched Rebels or Clone Wars, you don't know what that is. Well, Ed's comment about it being Jedi Heaven, it's actually more complicated than that. The world is called the World Between Worlds. It was created for Star Wars Rebel television series, and it was identified in season 4 episode called A World Between Worlds. The history of this, basically, it's also called the Virgin Scatter. It's been in all the Jedi texts and stuff, all the sacred texts on the Jedi Temple of Ahch-To. It's accessible from a painting of the Mortis gods, Father, Daughter, and Son, that decorated the exterior of a Jedi temple on the planet Lothal. That's where we first see Sabine in the series. It's where Ezra is from. The Loth wolves, creatures native to Lothal, were instinctively tied to the world between worlds and were able to travel through the realm in a similar manner as hyperspace travel. The Mortis gods painting served as a key to unveiling the entrance to the realm. Through assistance from a keystone from the temple, a force wielder who placed his hand over the daughter's encircled hand would be let in, while if they picked the son's encircled fist, they would be blocked out. So it's kind of a test to see if you're a dark side user or a light side user. Now, we could get into the Mortis gods. I don't know if they're going to play into this at all. So if they do, I will explain who they are. For now, they come from the Clone Wars saga. It's a story that involves Ahsoka and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin. There's a father, a son, and a daughter. The daughter is the light side, the son is the dark side, and the father is the balance between the two. And at one point, Ahsoka becomes the living embodiment of the daughter, and there's an owl that follows her around sometimes. It's tied to that. So if all that comes up, I'll get you next time. Right now, what you need to know is that after the discovery of the Jedi Temple of Lothal, Darth Sidious tried to get his way in there. He used Minister Varys Hayden of the Imperial military to try to search for a way inside. Now, they weren't able to, but Ezra Bridger was. He found a way inside. And once inside, there are a bunch of portals that you can look through. And looking through one of them, he saw Ahsoka Tano in a fight with Darth Vader. He pulled Ahsoka into the world between worlds, saving her. Now, this happened in Rebels. In Clone Wars, what happens is Ahsoka fights Darth Vader, and it appears that she dies, and we don't see her again for a very long time, and then suddenly she comes back. That's how it's explained. Now, once he realizes he can do this, Ezra wants to use it to save his former master, Kanan Jarrus. But the problem is, it doesn't work that way. You can't, it's not, it is time travel, but it's not time travel in the way that we most know it, where you go to the past, you make a change, and it butterflies effect forward. And I'll explain why in a second. But so basically, this is a place that allows you to enter at different times. There's doorways in and out at different times. Ahsoka was able to leave, going through a different doorway, which moved her to a bit to the future. Ezra went back through his door and ended up destroying the doorway in. So Ahsoka's been in there before. Now, how it works, yes, there's time travel in Star Wars, but it's not the type of time travel that can change things. It's not the type of time travel that can do like Endgame, where suddenly they're eliminating the snap or bringing everybody back, or creating an extra Loki. What this is called a closed loop time travel. And what that means is that everything has already happened. So if Ezra was able to find Ahsoka before they had never met before going into the world between worlds. But if he had, she would have known that he had saved her, because that had already happened. Even though it hadn't happened for him, it had already happened for her. And the reason he couldn't save Kanan is because if he did, then he wouldn't be there to save Kanan, because Kanan sacrificed himself to save Ezra and Hera and the crew of the not the Phoenix, basically the group of rebels. So you can't change things because everything you've done has already happened to that point. So you can't go in and pick the same flower twice or something like that, because it's already been done. Hope that makes sense. It's so just because I know a lot of people are flipping out because, oh my God, they brought time travel into Star Wars. It's not the type of time travel that'll screw things up. So let's see. Ed says, it was funny timing for the episode because Amy and I just watched 90 Minutes in Heaven where Hayden Christensen plays a preacher who died for 90 minutes and saw heaven. So I said, it's Jedi heaven. Nice. Ed says, interesting but confusing. I'm going to have to rewatch the show and hear you say that again. Yeah. There are doorways to different times. But it doesn't change. Anything that's already happened has happened. Anything you do in the past, anything you do in the future using those doors in the past have already happened in the past. So it's still going to be the same result. So, if you reached back and grabbed a copy of Superman #1 from the past, that Superman #1 will have been missing all that time. It wasn't like, well, somebody else had it for all those years and suddenly things are going to change because it's gone. That already happened. You had already stolen it. So I don't know any better way to describe that. It's a weird way to look at it. But anything you do in the future, anything you do in the past, even if it's done in the future, has already happened. We might need more gummies for this conversation, I think, in the future. Yeah, basically time is set. So there's no pulling Han Solo out before Rey. Well, if Han Solo was going to be pulled out from before the Goth kid kills him, it's already happened. Someone can't decide to do it because it's already been done. Now they can, if they decide to do it, it's because they had already done it in the past. I'm just making it worse, I think. All right, so it is cool seeing Hayden Christensen. I'm not sure why the de-aging looks so weird. Maybe they're trying to make him look a little bit more like how he looked in Clone Wars. But overall, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I heard someone say, if it's just Ahsoka and Anakin sitting around for an entire episode just reminiscing, we'll all be happy. I'm like, no, we won't. Nobody will be happy about that. But Lincoln says it's almost like purgatory, I think. Possibly. It says, so kind of like Doctor Strange What If, where no matter how many times he went back, he couldn't save her kind of thing. Yes. Yes. But in this case, it's because he had already gone back. It basically everything he had done had already been done. So it's a really weird one. But it's kind of cool too. Because I don't think there's no way really around it. JD says, unless you put Ham back right where he was, Clara Oswald rules. Nice. Hey, Lincoln. All right. So, yeah, we're going to wrap it up there. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I will be back next week with all new shows. Probably get around to talking about Only Murders in the Building again. That's getting really close to the end. More Ahsoka Tano. And we'll see what else we can come up with. Also, remember to check out that Humble Bundle if you want to help the victims of the Maui wildfires and get yourself a ton of cool comics. And other than that, have a great week. Remember, tonight we've got What's in the Box with Miss Jen, the Comic Book Beardies, which is a newer show if you haven't checked it out yet, and of course, Sketch Up with Mog and Mel. And they're giving away a sketch cover tonight. So if you want to get a freebie book, you want to be there and try to get your chance to enter. So, all right, everybody, have a great night. See you next week.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.